You've found your way here because something has changed. Maybe you've noticed that the stairs you used to climb without a second thought now leave your legs feeling heavy. Perhaps you tried to carry the grocery bags and felt that tremor in your arms that was never there before. Or maybe it was in a more intimate moment, when you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the body staring back. A body that seems to have weakened without asking permission, without warning, without giving you a chance to react. And the cruelest thing isn't the weakness itself, it's the feeling that it's inevitable, that getting older necessarily means losing strength, losing energy, losing the ability to truly live. You've heard it your whole life. Doctors say it, family says it, society as a whole repeats it. After 60, it's just how it is. But what if I told you that's a lie? What if I told you there's science, concrete, and real research showing that this weakness isn't the destiny you imagine? Because the truth is, most people who lose strength after 60 don't lose it because of age itself. They lose it because of specific mistakes, mistakes no one ever taught them to avoid, mistakes that seem innocent in everyday life, but are silently stealing your muscle mass, your energy, your drive. And the worst part is that these mistakes are directly linked to something most people over 60 carry without knowing: fatty liver. Yes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That buildup of fat inside the liver that affects over 30% of the global population has everything to do with the loss of muscle strength you're feeling. And today I'm going to show you exactly how this works, and more importantly, how you can reverse this situation. Before we go any further, let me ask you a question. Did you know that research published in the Journal of Hepatology showed that people with fatty liver lose muscle mass up to 3 times faster than people with a healthy liver? 3 times faster. This means it's not just about aging, it's about liver health. And when you take care of your liver, you automatically start to regain your strength, your energy, your quality of life. I'm a hepatologist, a specialist in liver diseases, and over more than 2 decades of clinical practice, I've seen hundreds of patients over 60 who thought they'd never get their strength back, and who were amazed to discover it was possible when they found the right path. Today, I'm going to share that path with you. If you've made it this far, you've already shown you're different from the majority. You don't just want to complain about the situation, you want to understand, you want to act, you want to change. And it's precisely for people like you that I created this channel. Every week, I bring you information based on the latest research on liver health, muscle recovery, longevity, and quality of life, information that many doctors haven't had time to study or can't explain in a 15-minute appointment. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, do it now. Click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos, because I'm going to guide you on this journey to reclaim the strength you thought was lost forever. You're not alone in this, and together, we're going to change this story. Now, before I talk about the 5 mistakes that are destroying your strength, I need to tell you the story of a patient. I'll call her Mrs. Martha. Martha came to my office at 63, retired, a lifelong teacher, a woman who had spent decades on her feet, teaching, moving, living with energy. When she walked in, she was different. She entered slowly, sat down carefully, as if every movement cost her something. She looked at me and said something I'll never forget. "Doctor, I feel like the battery has been pulled from my body. I ran the usual tests, ordered the ultrasound, and the results were clear. Grade 2 fatty liver with AST at 62 and ALT at 78, well above normal. But what struck me most wasn't just the liver, it was the combination. She had insulin resistance, elevated triglycerides, an increased waist circumference, and a loss of muscle mass that was significant for her age based on bioimpedance measurements. Martha wasn't just dealing with a fatty liver, she was trapped in a cycle I see all the time: a sick liver impairing metabolism, metabolism harming muscle, muscle loss further worsening insulin resistance, and insulin resistance further fueling the fatty liver. A silent, cruel, and very reversible cycle when you know what to do. Now, I need to pause here for a moment and ask you a question from the heart, because the answer you give could help thousands of people watching this video right now. Have you ever gone to the doctor, received a diagnosis of fatty liver, muscle weakness, or chronic fatigue, and left the office without truly understanding what to do? Have you ever felt like the doctor explained too little, the advice was vague, and you left with more questions than answers, and a feeling of helplessness inside that's hard to describe. I know what that's like. I hear this story every day in my practice. And that's why I want you to comment below right now. Use these words if you like. I have fatty liver and want to regain my strength. There's no shame in it. When you comment, you're connecting with hundreds of other people in the same situation. You're saying you won't give up, and you're helping me better understand what you need so I can create even more useful content for you. Comment now. I read every comment, and your story matters immensely. Let's understand what's happening inside your body, because when you grasp the mechanism, you stop blaming yourself and start acting smart. The liver is the largest internal organ in the human body and one of the most crucial. It filters blood, produces essential proteins, regulates blood sugar, metabolizes fats, eliminates toxins, and produces bile for digestion. When the liver starts accumulating fat, a process we call non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or NAFLD, it begins to lose efficiency in all these functions. And one of the most affected functions, which few people know about, is the production of muscle growth factors and insulin regulation. When the liver is infiltrated with fat, it develops insulin resistance, and this insulin resistance has a devastating effect on muscles. It reduces the muscle's ability to absorb glucose for energy, reduces protein synthesis that builds and maintains muscle mass, and increases muscle breakdown. In simple terms, a fatty liver literally eats your muscles. And this explains a lot of what Mrs. Marta was feeling, and a lot of what you might be feeling right now. But there's another equally important mechanism that recent research is revealing more clearly. A fatty liver produces inflammatory substances called pro-inflammatory cytokines, like TNF-alpha and interleukin-6, which circulate through the blood and reach the muscles, where they cause a process called inflammatory myopathy, meaning a chronic, low-grade inflammation that gradually destroys muscle fibers. And the most insidious part of this process is that it's silent. You don't feel sharp pain, you don't have a fever, you don't have clear symptoms. You just gradually feel that increasing weakness, that diminishing energy, that sense that your body is slowly betraying you. If you have fatty liver, hit that like button now so more people can find this information. Let me tell you about another patient. I'll call him Mr. Roberto. 67 years old, a retired shop owner, he was always an active man, loved fishing on weekends, tending to his garden, and playing with his grandkids. He came to the office referred by his cardiologist because routine tests showed elevated liver enzymes. AST at 71, ALT at 89, GGT at 112. The ultrasound confirmed grade 2 fatty liver. But what Mr. Roberto complained about most wasn't pain on his right side or anything he associated with his liver. It was weakness in his legs. He said he'd stopped going fishing because he couldn't stand for long anymore. He'd stopped tending his garden because squatting and getting up was too difficult. His grandkids would ask him to play, and he'd say he was tired, and inside he felt guilty, ashamed, less than the man he had been his whole life. When I explained the connection between his fatty liver and muscle loss, I saw his expression change. It wasn't just old age weakness. It was a treatable condition. He wasn't doomed. And that's precisely why what I'm about to share now is so important. The 5 mistakes that destroy strength after 60 and that have everything to do with liver health. The first mistake, and perhaps the most common, is thinking that resting is the best solution for fatigue. It seems logical. You're tired, so you rest more. But science shows the opposite. Inactivity is one of the biggest accelerators of muscle loss and fatty liver accumulation. When you stop moving, your metabolism slows down, insulin resistance worsens, liver fat increases, and the inflammation that destroys muscles intensifies. Research published in the journal Hepatology International showed that just 150 minutes a week of moderate-intensity physical activity is enough to reduce fatty liver by up to 30% and significantly improve muscle strength in people over 60. You don't need to go to the gym every day. You don't need heavy training. You need consistent, smart movement. Brisk walking, swimming, resistance training with light weights, or your own body weight. It all counts. It all transforms. The second mistake is an inappropriate diet for the age group. And here, I'm not just talking about eating wrong in terms of fat and sugar. I'm talking about a specific mistake that affects almost everyone over 60. Not consuming enough protein. With aging, The body needs more protein to maintain muscle mass, not less. But most older adults eat less protein than they need, often because their appetite decreases, other times because they've heard protein is bad for the kidneys or liver, which is a myth that needs to be debunked. The current recommendation for people over 60 is at least 2 to 1, 6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, and for those recovering muscle, it can go up to 2 grams. Sources like chicken, fish, eggs, legumes, and low-fat dairy are powerful allies for both muscles and liver health. Comment below if you knew this about protein, because I'm surprised how many people have never heard this from a doctor. The third mistake is ignoring liver health as part of muscle recovery. Most people, when they think about regaining strength after 60, only think about exercise and protein. Very few people think about the liver, but as I explained, the liver is the conductor of muscle metabolism. When the liver is loaded with fat, it's pointless to exercise and eat protein if the internal metabolic environment is inflamed and resistant. It's like trying to fill a leaky bucket. Therefore, any serious strength recovery protocol after 60 must include specific strategies to reduce liver inflammation and detoxify it. Reducing simple sugars and refined carbohydrates, eliminating ultra-processed foods, increasing consumption of cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, kale, and cabbage, which contain substances called glucosinolates that directly aid liver regeneration, and including healthy fats like extra virgin olive oil, nuts, and avocado, which protect the liver from inflammation. The fourth mistake is underestimating the impact of sleep on muscle recovery and liver health. Recent research shows that sleep deprivation, even partial, significantly increases markers of liver inflammation and accelerates muscle mass loss. During deep sleep, the body releases growth hormone, which is crucial for muscle synthesis and maintenance. When sleep is fragmented or insufficient, this hormonal release is compromised, leading to more muscle loss and inflammation. People with fatty liver often experience associated sleep disorders, including sleep apnea, which in turn further worsens non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD. It's a cycle that needs to be broken with specific strategies: sleep hygiene, treating apnea when present, and sometimes doctor-guided supplementation with magnesium or melatonin. The fifth mistake, and this one saddens me the most because it's the most silent, is emotional isolation. This might seem unrelated to muscle strength or fatty liver, but the science of chronic stress is clear. When a person isolates themselves, feels alone, hopeless, or purposeless, the body chronically releases cortisol. Chronically elevated cortisol is one of the biggest destroyers of muscle mass, besides directly promoting visceral and liver fat accumulation. Mr. Roberto, when he stopped fishing and tending his garden, didn't just lose physical activity. He lost purpose, connection, and joy. This accelerated the deterioration process far more than he imagined. When he resumed these activities, even in adapted forms, something within him changed too, and his test results started improving. Now I'll answer the questions I get most often on this topic, because I know you have questions and I want you to leave here with clear answers. The first question is, can you reverse fatty liver after 60? The answer is yes, absolutely yes. The liver has an extraordinary capacity for regeneration, which we call hepatic plasticity. Studies show that with the right lifestyle changes, it's possible to significantly reduce steatosis in a matter of months, regardless of age. The second question is, do I need medication to treat fatty liver? In most cases of simple steatosis, lifestyle changes are sufficient and more effective than any medication. When there's steatohepatitis, meaning associated inflammation, which we call NASH, your doctor might prescribe specific medications, but they always work best in conjunction with habit changes. The third question is, how do I know if my fatty liver is already causing muscle damage? The signs are progressive weakness, fatigue disproportionate to effort, difficulty with activities that were once simple, and altered lab results like elevated AST, ALT, and GGT. If you have these signs, comment below with your AST and ALT levels so we can better understand the overall picture of our community here. I'll tell you another story before we wrap up. A different story about someone who did everything right. I'll call her Mrs. Eleanor. 64 years old, she came to the clinic in a state similar to Martha and Roberto. fatty liver, elevated enzymes, muscle weakness, fatigue. But Eleanor had a special characteristic. She was determined. When I explained the protocol, she went home and applied each step with discipline. She reduced refined carbohydrates, increased protein, started with 30-minute walks 5 times a week, then added light resistance training twice a week. She slept better because she treated the apnea she didn't even know she had. She reconnected with her embroidery group, which she had abandoned because she lacked energy. And 6 months later, when she returned for her follow-up, her labs were completely different. AST normalized, ALT within the normal range, ultrasound showing reduced steatosis, and she walked into the office a different person. She walked in with a brisk pace, almost running, because she was late for a dance class she had started taking. 64 years old, dancing, recovered, strong. This is possible, this is real, and it can be you. The protocol that worked for Eleanor, for Martha, and for Roberto boils down to mutually reinforcing pillars, consistent daily movement, with at least 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity weekly and 2 sessions of resistance training, a diet with adequate protein and reduced sugars and ultra-processed foods, quality sleep with special attention to sleep apnea, social connection and purpose, and regular medical follow-up with liver enzyme tests and ultrasounds. It's not a complicated protocol. It's a protocol that demands consistency, and consistency begins with information, with understanding why each step matters. And you have that information now. If you've tried to reverse fatty liver and haven't succeeded, comment below, because I want to understand what happened. I want to help identify where the process got stuck, and I want to show that there's always a next step, always a path that hasn't been tried yet. It's never too late for your liver to start recovering, and it's never too late for your muscles to start growing again and supporting the life you want to live. Before I close, let me summarize the 5 mistakes you need to eliminate now. Resting too much and moving too little, not eating enough protein for your age group, ignoring liver health as a central part of muscle recovery, underestimating the impact of sleep on the process, and isolating yourself instead of seeking connection and purpose. 5 mistakes, 5 changes, a different life on the other side. If this video made sense to you, if something I said here touched on something you were feeling but couldn't name, I ask you to leave your like now, because it tells me I'm on the right track, that this content is reaching the right people. Share this video with someone you love who is over 60 and feeling this weakness, because you might be giving that person the key they needed to change their life. And if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, do it now, because next week I'll be bringing you a video about the 3 foods that people with fatty liver eat thinking they're healthy, but which are actually making their condition worse, and you won't want to miss that information. Until then, take care of your liver, take care of your muscles, and always remember, regaining strength after 60 isn't a dream, it's science applied with consistency.